you've come up with some tone words, all right? And I'll be around to check in. So I will circulate around, and my goal through circulating is to identify at least 3 pairs that have some findings that I think the rest of the class should hear, right? Some students who might have picked out some really strong language and they seem to really be understanding this tone stuff so that they can model that for the other students in the class. I also am looking to see what students might be struggling, to see what groups might be just kind of staring ahead or not really jiving, so that I can do some support there. So this next slide, obviously I wouldn't have it italicized like this normally, but without having students, I did so myself. If I were doing this in class with students, I might use the smartboard or something like a chalkboard to have students note down the words themselves, get them out of their seats, get them right on the board so that they can do that a little bit more actively. But for the purpose of this, I selected some of the language the students would choose. So I heard some good things while I was circulating around. Would my group over here like to kick us off? What are some things you found? What are some words that you picked out? And so I would go through in that way, moving from group to group, asking them what words they picked out, what associations came up, and what tone they came to. Depending on the feedback I get from them, I might probe a little bit deeper and ask, okay, like fester like a sore. Okay, what does that think of? Does that seem like it would be like painful? Does it seem like it would be like, oh, like I really like that? Like, do we know what fester means? Especially because some of this language might be a little hard for students that like they might not know what fester means. So that might be an area where we might have to build up a little bit. But if students do pick that up, I might want to probe a little bit deeper. So we talk through the poem and we feel like we have a good grasp of tone. And now I want to come back to the journal. So why do we care about dreams? Why did these 2 guys write about dreams? So that at this point, I would like to go back to your journals and just pull those out and jot down some notes to these 2 questions. So why are dreams so important and how can you hold on to your dreams? So I would give students about a minute. This is a very brief, just jotting down notes to write down some answers to this. Pair up just as they have the last few times, and then share out. I really like think, pair, share just for students to have some way of building community with their peers and sharing their ideas before they share with the whole class to get more engagement, more involvement, so you don't just have the same students participating all the time, and also so that they are able to practice what they want to say before sharing out. For a lot of students who are maybe shy, that alleviates some stress. So we talked through these. I would like to hear some of what the groups talked about, invite them to share out. And then after we've done that, I want to take us back to the goal. So we had 2 goals in the beginning of class, and I want to make sure that we achieved those goals. So on the back of your paper, I'm going to flip it over. What is one important takeaway and one question that someone might have from today's class? So one thing that's really important to know about today's lesson, that if you were going to tell someone who wasn't here today what we did, what would you tell them? And then what is the question that someone might have? So that you might not have a question. You might be like, Miss Weaver, I understand tone. I understand my dreams. I'm good. That's great. I'm thrilled to hear it. But if someone else has a question, what do you think could have confused them? What part of tone might be difficult for someone to understand? And I phrase the question that way because I think when students hear, like, what is a question you have on an exit ticket, they're like, I don't have any questions. And that doesn't give me a lot of feedback to move forward with. So after students have about 2 minutes to answer those 2 questions, I would collect those handouts and then close out class for today. It's a great job, everyone. I'm glad to have been here with you. I will stop sharing my screen, and we are done for today. Thank you for being with me.